Good evening. Hey, thank you so much for coming out this evening. My name is Brian Mast. I'm the Deputy Director of Government Affairs for the San Antonio River Authority. Really like to thank you for coming out to the 30% information session for the River Road Ecosystem Restoration Project. I do want to introduce a few people that will be presenting to you this evening, as well as the San Antonio River Authority Board Chairman, Mr. Jim Campbell, who is here with us. Thank you, Jim. Presenting this evening, as soon as I can get myself off the stage, it will be Kathleen Rubin, who is our program manager for the San Antonio River Authority. We have Mr. Danny Allen, who is a senior wildlife biologist for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And then we have the architectural engineering consultants, Mr. Jim Wilson, who is the project manager, and Brian Clay, the landscape architect, that will come up and present. We do have Spanish translation. If anybody would like Spanish translation this evening, I'm going to ask Kai to repeat that in Spanish because mine is very poor.
Buenas tardes. Si necesitas traducción en español, por favor, busca a los representantes con ese botón verde y ellos te van a ayudar. Gracias.
So I do want to say a few things. There we go. All right. We will have a project presentation about what the 30% design is. First, we're going to go over the history of the project, as well as what the feasibility study said may be feasible in the ecosystem restoration. Then get into the 30% high-level conceptual design at this stage. We are going to take questions from the audience this evening. We'd like to have that pertain to tonight's presentation. If you have comments about the project, we have two different opportunities. We have comment cards, and we also have project maps out in the foyer with the full layout where you can place sticky notes with your comments about the project, your ideas, your thoughts, disagreements, whatever they may be. Please share those with us. We are sharing those with the entire project team. We know there are many different views about this project. We invite them, but we ask you to be respectful of other attendees and the project staff that are here with us tonight. There will be the opportunity for questions. Like I said, we do have the comment cards for suggestions, thoughts, ideas. If you don't want to speak, talk through a microphone and ask us a question, we also have question cards. We're going to be available afterwards if you want to have a one-on-one conversation. All of that is available this evening. Lastly, I mentioned the mapping exercise. We have two, I believe they're about 6 to 8 foot maps. They're the exact same. There are opportunities for people to get around there, converse with one another, talk about the project, and place comments. We will collect all of that and share it with the project team. And with that, I'm going to invite Kathleen to come up here and motor through the rest.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me? Okay. So if you don't, it is being recorded, and I'll share the information about where that can be found on the next slide. So you can take down the address. So the project we're here to speak about tonight is the River Road Aquatic Ecosystem Restoration Project. This project will leverage federal funding through the current administration's initiatives pilot, and this was funded by the bipartisan infrastructure law. The goal of the project is to implement channel restoration, improve fish passage, and mitigate erosion. And the area in question is outlined in the map here on the screen, and we'll get into more detail in the project presentation. So there are lots of ways to stay informed. Like tonight, there will be engagement opportunities at each of the project milestones, so at 60 and 90%. And I have some dates to share later on, or some ranges later on in the presentation. We'll make everybody aware of when those meetings are occurring through mail and also through our social media channels. There are project websites that include project information and presentations from past meetings. So you can take down this information, or we can share it with you after the meeting. The easiest way to get there is through bearcip.org. There is a River Road website, or a page within the Bear CIP website that includes the recording from our past meetings. It includes our frequently asked questions, with all of the questions that were asked at that kickoff meeting, and recordings of every meeting that has occurred on this project to date. That frequently asked question is posted on the project website. And if you'd like to get there directly and you have a smartphone, we have QR codes on the sign-in table that you can navigate right to that frequently asked question sheet. You can also reach out directly to the project team at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. That email address is riverroader@usace.army.mil, and we can share that with you if it's too much to write while we're sharing this slide. I also want to acknowledge the many partners and stakeholders that are working collaboratively with us to make this project possible. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is the federal agency, and the San Antonio River Authority is the non-federal sponsor. We have many other stakeholders, some of whom I see representatives in the room, including Bear County, Texas Parks and Wildlife, TCEQ, COSA, Parks, staff, Public Works, and the Office of Historic Preservation, and so on. So the River Authority's role in this project as the non-federal sponsor is to work on all of the real estate related to the project, relocations if those are necessary. We're also committed to the operation and maintenance of this project, including implementation of an adaptive management plan. And I will speak to the timeframe for that adaptive management plan, and then my colleague Danny will get into more detail about what that will look like. The River Authority is also committed to timely communications with the public, and so we'll continue to have meetings just like this one throughout the project life cycle. Just to back up into history of how we got here today, this project has been top of mind for a long time in the community. Starting in 1998 and running through 2008, there was a San Antonio River Oversight Committee that laid out a series of recommendations for projects that they would like to see along the San Antonio River. This specific connection from Museum Reach to the Brackenridge Trail was outlined as part of that committee's recommendation. In 2015, there was a federal interest determination made that led to a feasibility study that was occurred from 2018 to 2020. The public review of that feasibility study is available on the project website with a recording of the meeting and links directly to the feasibility study if you have the desire to dive in deeper on what the results of that study were. In 2023, federal funding was secured through the bipartisan infrastructure law, which led to our project kickoff in winter of 2024 when we held the last public meeting. So we are now in design phase. This will occur from 2024 through 2025. We will bid the contract in 2026 and head into construction from 2026 through 2028. The adaptive management portion, where we will ensure that all of the invasives that are removed and the natives that are added to this segment of river are established well, will occur anywhere between up to 3 years during that time frame, and then the River Authority will take over continued operation and maintenance and ensuring that the establishment continues to occur along that segment. Just to dive in a little bit deeper on when you can anticipate those next design milestones, we are here in summer of 2024 with 30% design. winter of 2025, we can anticipate the 60%. And then soon after that, in spring of 2025, we'll have the 90% design plans available. And now I'll hand it over to my colleague, Danny Allen. Thank you.
Recognize some faces from the last public meeting we had. So a lot of these slides are similar to the last one. So if you bear with me and let me talk to the people that are new here, or just a refresher for you guys that were here last time. My name's Danny Allen. All right, can everybody hear me better? All right. My name's Danny Allen. I'm a wildlife biologist with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers with the Regional Planning and Environmental Center. I've been on the project since the feasibility study got kicked off back in 2017, 2018. The Corps of Engineers has a robust civil works program, and one of those civil works authorities give us the ability to do aquatic ecosystem restoration, which was why the Corps of Engineers is kind of involved in this study. It is an aquatic environmental restoration study, ecosystem restoration study. And when we start off with our projects, we always identify the problems, the objectives, the opportunities to solve those problems. And we've got 3 sets of problems with the river road that have been identified. We have stream degradation due to excessive erosion. And then on the flip side of that, we have stream degradation due to excessive sedimentation. Usually you want those things to balance out, but when you get excessive erosion and excessive sedimentation, that it leads to problems with this stream restoration. The riparian habitat is constrained and degraded. We have Avenue A on one side of the project area, and the access and the increased use of the side of that project, or the side of recreational activities where there's just all the vegetation has been trampled down, is one of the things that we're concerned with. The objectives of this study are to restore the aquatic ecosystem structure and function. We want the structure of the river to be more naturalized, and that leads to the good function of the river. We want to restore and maintain the riparian habitats, and we want to reduce the erosive threat to the roads that parallel the river, specifically River Road, where erosion's encroaching upon the road itself. So in order to do that, we've got several ecosystem restoration measures. The first is to remove the low water crossings 1, 2, and 3, and I've got a map that follows this up to show you which ones, where those are. The installation of in-stream structures to balance the sediment transport of the site. Construction of bridges at the low water crossing sites to maintain that connectivity. The removal of Avenue A and the construction of a trail on the Avenue A side to replace Avenue A. And then another important factor is the removal of non-native invasive species. There's a lot of invasive species that outcompete native species in the River Road area. And so the project would involve removing those and then replacing those with native plant species by planting those trees. So here's a map of the project area. LWC is low water crossing 1, and then low water crossing 2 on down to the south side of the project area. And Avenue A is outlined there in yellow as well to kind of give you an idea of what the landscape looks like. So the current conditions, we've got excessive erosion, and the first 2 figures you can see on the opposite side of the bank where we have excessive erosion that's eating away at the bank as well as the trees on the bank. and again, encroaching upon River Road on that western side of the river. The in-stream structures, we've got an example, and the design architects, they've got some more examples of these features as well. But in figure 3 there, you've got what those in-stream structures would look like. There'd be naturalized rock or stone or natural material to blend in with the natural aesthetics of the river itself. And from those restoration measures, we received ecological benefits from those. The removal of the low water crossing and the installation of the in-stream structures in combination, they'll balance out that sediment transport where we've got erosion equaling the rate of erosion equaling the rate of sedimentation. So you get this balanced stream flow throughout the system. And it also creates a more diverse aquatic ecosystem by creating these natural pool, riffle, run sequences in the river. The in-stream structures provide those riffle habitats. They back up water a little bit as far as creating pools and runs. The other ecological benefit is the removal of Avenue A. That allows us to widen out the riparian width and planting native riparian trees and woody vegetation along the eastern bank of the river, as well as planting native riparian trees on the west bank where invasive species are occurring. And finally, there's a recreational aspect to the project. Avenue A will be replaced with a trail set back from the river. Bridges will be constructed at the low water crossings, as I had mentioned before. We'll provide fishing access points and bird viewing locations along the accessing the trail. And then there'll be access controls just so that the areas don't get trampled as much. We can focus recreational opportunities into certain areas that allow the restoration to take place. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jim Wilson, project engineer.
Thank you, Danny. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jim Wilson. I'm with MSMM Engineering, and I'm wearing 2 hats for this project. I'm the project manager and the lead civil engineer. And with me tonight is Brian Clay with Michael Baker International. He's a landscape architect, and he and I will share the next few slides together. This slide is just a few more pictures of the existing conditions. In the upper left is a picture of the low water crossing number 1. Upper middle is a picture of the river through the golf course. Upper right is Avenue A. Lower left is a picture of the low water crossing number 2. And lower right is another picture of the river. This slide shows the project limits with north pointing to the right. You have East Mulberry Avenue also on the right, Davis Park in the upper right. This shows the low water crossings all the way down to the Highway 281 with Avenue A on the east side of the river.
Thanks, Jim. So some of the things that we're looking at when we're talking about the riparian corridor, you heard Danny Allen talking about that. We're looking at a layered approach of vegetation that's native to the region that's going to serve multiple ecosystem services, bring birds back to the corridor. So some of the things you're looking at here, you can see on the screen, are just a sample of the proposed plant palette. Some of these species you might see in different areas, and they serve different things based on the hierarchy in this riparian corridor. Some are going to be a bit taller eventually, some will be lower toward the ground, and each one provides a different benefit. You may have heard a little bit about the invasive plants. Again, Danny brought that up a bit ago, and there is quite a bit of invasive vegetation in plants that are in the corridor. So some of these things that you can see in the images there, the China berry, Chinese tallow, those are some different things that are causing problems in terms of how they're spreading seeds. They're outcompeting the native species that are in the corridor, and it's things that are not desirable from an aquatic health perspective. This is a graphic that shows kind of where some of those invasive plants are clustered. So anything that you can see in the yellow are kind of hot spots, if you will, of plant material at all different densities that has been surveyed at the site. And it just kind of provides a visual picture of where those invasive species are spread.
So this next slide is showing the proposed stream restoration in a conceptual form. The yellow stars indicate where proposed cross veins or J hooks would be implemented with pools just downstream of those features. This slide shows some of the amenities. The blue and orange icons indicate where proposed fishing piers may be placed, and the orange being the bird viewing blinds. And the white icons indicate where the low water crossings are, which would be replaced with pedestrian bridges. This is a typical cross section showing River Road on the left, the river in the middle, and Avenue A on the right. And this is Avenue A, the existing, as you know, it's a 2-lane asphalt roadway. And we are proposing to remove that asphalt road and put in a new trail and then infill with new native tree plantings and native seedlings. Brian.
What we're looking at on the screen now is just a conceptual picture for Davis Park as part of the program for the project, increasing the riparian corridor. That does include a little piece of Davis Park. And our first concept that we're showing here is just a way to infill the planting on the edge toward River Road to bring in additional seeding and further improve the health of the stream. That's what we're showing in this view.
So we're going to have Kendall and Mario have the microphones. And if you would like to ask a question, one of them will be over here on the right-hand side, and one of them will be here in the middle. And I'm going to switch to the lapel.
So hello, my name is Alicia Garlock, and you know, I'm one of the ones fighting to save all the trees on the other side. But in regards to the Army Corps of Engineers, I would like to know, over here, are they here, anyone from the Army Corps?
We have everybody
Oh,
present.
they
Thank
are.
you.
Sorry, I forgot. Your NEPA 101, policy practicable means and measures to foster and promote a general welfare, maintain conditions where man and nature can exist in productive harmony. Now, you know, as you remove 80% of the vegetation, that you will impact the wildlife, specifically migratory birds, but you will also impact the tree canopy, which cools the river. So I know you're saying you're gonna plant trees, but you are aware that our drought conditions right now are cities in stage 3 restrictions, water restrictions. We're in extreme or moderate drought right now. Or heat island, which is not going to change. So as you remove all that tree canopy, you're going to raise the temperature. And that's going to cause that water to.
Ms. Harlow, can you get to the question, please?
That's my question.
Okay,
What
thank
are you going to do to help maintain you're talking about the health of the water, but if you remember, the water is recycled sewer water with runoff from the zoo. But my River Road friends are afraid of flooding, which also the tree canopy would help prevent. So are you taking everything into consideration with our current drought conditions are heat island because it's not gonna stop. And, yeah, that's my question.
Okay. Yeah, we were aware, and all of that has been taken into consideration in the feasibility report. There will be some temporary loss of habitat in order to get the more desired habitat in place. It's just the nature of the beast when it comes to ecosystem restoration. It's going to, there's going to be some impacts before you'll receive the benefits, the full benefits. 2016, 2017.
If you do a feasibility study, because of our current conditions in San Antonio, things have changed. And we don't want this project to not only affect the wildlife, but my river, friend.
It's good to keep in mind, we're in the design phase. The design phase is going to continue through 2025. Contract will not be let out for the project until 2026. There is time that will be taking place. I'm sure the climate will continue its variability. All of these will be taken into account in the design as well when we get to construction.
Asking for Shire Outreach, this is a great project to help with the urban area. My question is, you're working on that whole stretch of road down to 281, where the other path that right comes around, goes under and takes them to the shows on the environmental mission connection. Is there going to actually be, a connection along that stretch of river? Is it, obviously, how to be a dead end essentially? But is there, with that trail, is there opportunity to connect that, for pedestrian potential license as well?
There are, so again, Brian Mast with the San Antonio River Authority. There are initial conversations occurring to add that as a betterment. We're not there yet, but there are initial conversations occurring within the community. Yes, sir.
That's all.
Thank you.
Is there an arrangement with the city to assure that they're never going to turn off the spigot?
There's an agreement with the San Antonio water system that water will remain in the river. They're committed to 10 CFS, 10 cubic feet per second of water in the San Antonio River.
And if so, how is it gonna be? I mean, how's it gonna be addressing this situation of golfers there? And I have a second question also.
Similar to the last answer that I answered over here, there are preliminary discussions with the golf course and other stakeholders about a potential trail that would make that connection and how that may be aligned. So golfer and pedestrian interactions are limited. We have such instances of this occurring in Houston and Dallas, where golf courses do have hike and bike trails across them and incorporated, and they've been very successful, decades of experience with it. So. We are looking at an additional parking lot on the other side of Mulberry to be able to access the Avenue A, the new Avenue A trail. The exact location is undetermined at this time, but that is part of the discussions and design conversations with the engineers and the Corps of Engineers. It would be new parking accessible. It is not located at this time. Thank you.
Describe the neighborhoods on any of your maps. I think we need to see all of those, about 12, 15 of them. About half of them are natural, and about half of them are man-made. And question one that I have for you is, why are you discriminating about the three that are in River Road? Why would you be taking them out when you have about 12 more in between here and the county line?
The easiest answer is the others that you're mentioning are outside the project area. We do not have project in those areas addressing those concerns.
That's discrimination against our neighborhood. And the other question I have for you is, when are you going to remove all the polluted painting that you've done all over our streets and River Road?
The markings that were placed on the streets early on were identifying utilities and making sure that future work, all workers are safe and we know where those utilities are located and people are not injured during the construction of the project. We have to mark where those are. It's temporary painting and it is being removed as we, it's moving away as we speak. We will not remove them. Natural environment will remove them. It'll erode away.
Vice Chair said, so I've got bias. But I want to just make a few quick notes and then I'll previous in my written comments as well. So I want to talk tonight really quickly about and limit my comments to Davis Park and the environment around Davis Park. Davis Park showing inside the project boundary. Is this land included? It seems primarily to increase the area of invasive species in the project because the golf course is also a part of my questions tonight, and that has to do with that portion of Recreation Park also being considered for modifications. And the FAQ site shows that the golf course boundary, the boundary of the project actually it encroaches into the golf course as well. And I think there's some serious contrasts and similarities between the golf course and Davis Park. Davis Park's currently a green space. It's got a lot of trees at the edges, a great lawn at the center, and that unirrigated lawn in Davis Park, like a lot of park lawn and a lot of parks across the country and here locally, serves as a great green carpet that hosts family picnics, kite flying, dog walking, neighborhood soccer games, and frisbee, running barefoot, exercise classes, family picnics, wedding photographs, and of course, Easter functions in the park. It's a wonderful destination. And it's a plethora of uses and a lot of activity. So the use of this area is open to everyone for free right now. The only maintenance of that lawn is infrequent mowing by parks contractors. That area has little effect on the river ecosystem other than slowing down runoff, catching sediments, and cooling the surface. Yeah, I'm getting to that. Thanks. You understand this, right?
Yes, we are trying to get through some questions as we can today.
Please.
But if you could repeat your data smart questions, we can move on for the same question.
How many minutes do I have?
It's not time. We are answering your questions.
Great.
Your comments can be written down.
I'll get to the next question. Davis Park provides excellent benefits for people in this area. And there are opportunities to improve wildlife habitat around the edge of the park. And it's understory, tree canopy, of the great lawn, in my opinion, should remain visible and be kept under watch by users in that spot. Is Brackish Park, golf course, and first tee also included in this project area? That's the question. It appears to be on the project map in the FAQ section. There are area of the lawn areas covered in Bermuda grass that are briefly mowed to create some inch
trimmed, treated with herbicides, fungicides, pesticides, fertilizers. They're sprayed over that area. They can end up in this roller runoff in the river. This area seems to have a greater effect on the river ecosystem than the park property. So Breckenridge Golf Course provides a single type of experience, the game of golf. This is a closed area for those who pay to play. Okay, others are not allowed. The maintenance regime and noise equipment restricts the area for use by most wildlife, including bird species. Golf course maintenance area, including the sheds, material storage, and car parking for employees, should be relocated, in my opinion. I'm glad to hear that Avenue A will not include maintenance access to that area. If Davis Park be included as part of the Parklands project, will Sarah be responsible for operation and maintenance of park property, including trash removal? That's another question. What is meant by an adaptive management approach in utilized operation maintenance? That's another question.
Can we, Mr. Clark, can we take these one at a time? I'm certain that we're not going to remember the first questions that you asked about Davis Park. Can we?
Sure.
And let's please stick to questions. That was pretty lengthy presentation.
So what was the exact question on Davis Park?
Just the lawn, was it part of the feasibility study? And then
Yes,
current plan.
so Davis Park was involved in the feasibility study. Right now, it's the feasibility study came out with that it would be planted with trees, but it would be more of a park-like setting, where you could still have Easter egg hunts, or you could still have picnics under the trees. But so you're covered. Yeah.
With regard to the River Authority, who is going to operate and maintain the park or this section of the River Authority is committed to the operation and maintenance of this area, including trash, moving forward, once the project is constructed. It's this section, Mulberry to 281. Obviously, the golf course probably has a maintenance regime that they will be conducting on their own property.
I do. Thanks. What's meant by the adaptive management?
Well, as we plant new species, as we plant the native species, and we're seeing how they're growing and coming into the project area, we're also going to see some of the non-native species continue to grow in the area. So it's going to take some actual hand work to continue to remove the non-native species. That seed bank will continue to be there. It is a highly urbanized watershed. It's experience that we've had on the Mission Reach. We're very good at it. And we would employ a lot of what we've learned on the Mission Reach in this area. I know it's a different habitat, a little different ecosystem, but we have a lot of lessons learned. So it's taking what we learned through the project as it matures and applying that new information to continually to manage the project the best we can.
How does one prevent midgrass from establishment with growing seeds flying in the project area, and will chemical herbicides be used in this project area?
Yeah. Are you talking Davis Park specifically or the project?
Beyond the scope of our.
Yeah.
We are not going to prevent Bermuda grass from going into this project site and becoming an invasive species. And it's listed as one of the invasive species. On the other side of the river, we have the Breckenridge Golf Course, which is planted exclusively with Bermuda grass and other, and turf grasses that are for golf. Why are we not looking at the golf course with the same lens that we're looking at in Davis Park.
Yeah, I think that just comes down to, it's not in the project. It's,
It was not part of the original feasibility study to be looking at the golf course in that manner, sir. The request from the community that we received was about erosion into the River Road area, some of the degradation that is occurring, and then non-native species that are proliferating in this stretch of the river.
In my opinion, Brian, Davis Park does not contribute that as much as the.
And I think what you see on 30% conceptual is a very light touch in preserving much of what you are talking about. So thank you very much.
Anniversary of the establishment and the development of the Upper Water Safety. And this is an irrigation ditch that was built in Spanish colonial period that feeds water into the river, from the river, sorry, just upstream of the project, through present day Bradbridge Park, along the east edge of Davis Park, and then to farmland in our neighborhood. This is a form giving condition that was established by the Spanish colonial period in 1776. And there's a sidewalk, there's a pour-off ditch that comes from that Spanish colonial estate down to the river. It goes through the community garden, crosses Davis Park, and enters the river. And those are precious archaeological landmarks. They've got to be preserved and interpreted for future generations. And know that there's something in the FAQ about interpretation once we get to the cultural report, et cetera. The significance of those in this area is incredibly important to allow this. So I want to hear about what plans there are for preserving, protecting the estate, the subway, and the associated outfall into the river. And what about plans for interpretation of that history? Thanks very much.
We agree completely. The Corps of Engineers has a very extensive archaeological process that they have to go through, that they are undergoing, and in cooperation with the Office of Historic Preservation, State Office of Historic Preservation, or the State Historic Preservation Officer, Texas Historical Commission, the Corps of Engineers, and I understand the River Road Neighborhood Association has been added to the consultant list for the built environment. And so there is absolutely a process. The collection of the history of this area is something that we absolutely want to integrate into interpretive educational signage that will be placed into the project area in the future. So we agree. Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate it.
It concerns me, and a lot of my neighbors, is the removal of invasive species in intervals that the 100-year or the 1,000-year flood will come 3 days after everything is removed, and everything will wash down the road. And we witnessed that in the Mission Reach area, when 99% of what I see as a consumer and a user floated down the river in that big flood. So I didn't hear, and I would ask you to address whomever, how that is going to be treated, how it will be adjusted in the plan so that the removal of invasive species does not inevitably leave places bald while the 100-year or 1,000-year flood comes through. So what kind of management is going to happen there? That's my first question.
Okay. So the removal of the invasive species is going to remain a lot of the native species that are already there. Most of those, except for a few that need to be removed to get equipment in and out, will be remaining in place. So it isn't going to be scorched earth. I will also say that the flood that you referenced for the Mission Reach project, when that flood occurred, the river had greater carrying capacity than it has had ever before. It had the ability. We have modeled that flood, and the flood came over land and combined with the river. But there were different dynamics than just the river flooding into the Espada neighborhood that you're referencing. It was a different dynamic when you model the rainfall and you model the flow of the water. How are we taking it into account? This project cannot, it is the first order of business not to increase the floodplain. It must remain as it is today or improve. And so there is always that chance. You get a Hurricane Harvey, we can't protect against that. But what I can say is we will take all measures possible in the removal of the species, the planting of the new species, that it remains as it is today. And there's nothing to protect. There are areas of the neighborhood today that are in the floodplain, and there's nothing necessarily available to protect that, right?
My second question, since we're at the 30% planning stage, is where is the staging area planned to be for all of the equipment?
We've had conversations with the city. We're not to a final location, but it is likely to be somewhere on in the Davis Park area. It is an open area. But that is the current conversation, and the city of San Antonio has, we've been having this conversation, so.
So my suggestion would be that work out some kind of deal with, as Larry pointed out, the golf course area, which is a pay to play versus the free public green space that is available to everyone that can then become a chewed up.
I don't believe the entire park would not be
Well,
needed for
of course
this.
not. Of course it won't be the entire park, but it is a free.
Yes, it is.
Space. So at 30%, I would ask that
Sure.
you do everything within your power not to destroy existing green space, open to the public, and limit.
It's a good point. Thank you very much. We will, please put that on the comment card as well.
Questions. Is there plans to regrade both the banks or just that left bank for Avenue A is going to be removed?
It's still in the evaluation phase. I think in combination of knowing what trees are going to be removed, that'll kind of play into it as well. So it's too early to tell at the moment. More than likely, the cross veins will be like natural boulders instead of a wood type structure.
The acquisition. Was there attempted acquisition of portions of the golf course or just?
There's no land acquisition occurring within the project. No. We have done the initial, we have identified the species that are out there today. And similar as to what we've done on the Mission Reach, we have, through the adaptive management plan, gone out and measured the percentage of species, of native species that are there, the non-native species, and made management decisions based on how things are looking at that time. So yes, that will be part of the process.
Previous asker. Yeah, just maybe are there like mitigation strategies for like during the construction phase? Because I think it sounds like it goes 2-year construction phase, and being in such a highly urbanized setting, there's a lot of risk that restoration work that is completed gets, destroyed by high flows. And like, I guess like planting and removal in phases, what is this about?
We will work with the Army Corps of Engineers on how that contract looks. I would be really happy to answer your questions back at the office since you work with the River Authority. That would be great.
So it's very interesting seeing the Avenue A being replaced with the trail. I highly support that. It's great that we're reducing the impervious surfaces along the project area. And I think what a lot of people forget is that we've already gone and done some negative things to the river in the past in this area. There are already low water crossings that have affected sedimentation in this area. So I highly support this project going back and fixing a lot of those issues that we have made in the past. My question is, I do support that trail connection to the river walk section of the trails just south of the golf course, especially with River Road being cut off from the rest of the city by 281 and the golf course. I would like to see that connection, and I don't understand why we would be looking at a parking lot to increase that impermeable surface for access to that when we are doing all this work to kind of restore the ecosystem of the river.
While it's not designed yet, there's nothing that says it has to be impermeable surface for the parking lot.
Right.
So it could be permeable parking lot. And we've designed those at Confluence Park and other areas of our community, but it's a design and funding decision to be made down the road. But appreciate that.
Okay. And I always tell people what our report is talking about doing. They're always upset because they love going across the river there. My question is, are you going to take all 3 of the crossings out at the same time? Or how long are these people that use that crossing going to be without a way to get across the river there? What is your kind of time frame for the 3 river crossings?
It is way too early to say what that construction activity, what the timing and the phasing of that will be. There will be a disruption to the current pedestrian patterns in the area during construction, particularly when the low water crossings come out and so are removed and replaced with the bridges. So I don't know what that is at this stage. That will be determined probably closer to 90% design, and certainly in the construction contract, we'd have a better idea.
Where that's available?
We can provide that to you at the end of the meeting.
What?
If you'd like to come up, I can write down, we can give you, or you can ask each of the individuals for their information, but yes, absolutely. You do have my information, correct, Ms. Moore? I will leave it to the individuals that spoke to provide you their contact information. I don't have it all. No, we are removing 3 water crossings, lower. There are 3 low water crossings within the project area. No, there are 2 more on the golf course that are being removed and replaced. No, but we will.
It's got. Yeah, it's a bog price.
We-
Okay, now, my question to you this, how will the board, Sarah, ensure that River Road neighborhood residents to neighborhood residents, that their property values will not decline because of the construction phase 26 to 28, nor during the adaptive management phase 28 to 31?
I can't make that promise.
Well, that's an issue that I think we need to somehow put on the table. Then what is the core zero process for this project where you contact staff? Like we had already some contractors from a company that were working, they were looking for something. Oh, I know they had sheds, they were doing something. And so when we asked them, I mean, all these people called me like, what are these people doing here? And they're parking in the park. And so and then we went up to them, we had great trucks, by the way, great looking one. But a bunch of them. Then they started parking not 1, but 2, and 3 because it was shadier. And they said, some of the employees said, oh, it's because they had heavy equipment, but they didn't show this because people watched them all the time. So we want to know, like, we didn't know what to do. So we went and asked them who they got the permit from, and we went through 6 city departments to find out that they did not have permits. So we need, and if River Authority is going to be in charge, and I don't know who's going to be the general contract, right? The new subcontract.
I'm with River Authority.
Right.
And we have we have the design consultants with us. You can contact River Authority. I know I believe you have my contact information.
Yeah, but we need somebody like say they have the support because they run it and we protect that. That's a part. And park police, you know, we did everything. Park police, SAPD, Parks Department, Development Services, and finally in Public Works, we found out that they didn't have a permit. So we need to get that clear and have somebody to talk. People, because if not, I mean, I really don't think
If you have any questions about the project, please call the San Antonio River Authority front desk. They will transfer you to somebody that is on the project team and we will be able to answer questions. If we don't know the answers, we will get the answers from the Corps of Engineers or the consultant. We're an open book, and I know many of you in this room have my contact information directly, but you can call the San Antonio River Authority front desk 227-1373. It's 210-227-1373. You can ask for Brian Mast and they will direct the phone call directly to me.
Yeah. I'm sorry, project partnership agreement, which is basically a major document that everybody should look at. It's basically the contract between the Corps and and Sarah. There's a section that has to do with one eminent domain, which is terribly important for us to know about. And then the other thing is that there's on the last page of Article 13, it has third-party rights, benefits, or liabilities. So that if things don't go well between the Corps and Sarah, then we're stuck basically, because we are probably, my question is, are we a third party is noted in that article? You know? Okay.
I'm not a lawyer, and so I'm not in a good place to answer that. But what I will say is that contract is for the River Authority and the Corps of Engineers to get the design and construction of the project. And whatever we're required to do, the River Authority absolutely has been a very good partner with the Corps of Engineers in our community over the years. And the Corps of Engineers are not walking away from the project.
Party, I mean, somebody might think about this.
I'm not aware of the party to the agreement.
Well, I just asked, that's our question.
Okay, I'm not, The parties of the agreement are the Corps of Engineers and San Antonio River Authority.
Right, we will get back to those.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Good. A number of us live within a few yards of the river. Number of homes, and we need to be concerned about damage to our homes.
No.
I mean, you're gonna be blasting out, walkways, and do I need to hire someone, an engineer, to come look at my home and protect us? Is that a concern? And by the way, it's not just my house, it's all the houses on River Road are literally a few yards from the road. That, respectfully, that's the question. And then number two, the second question I had is the lighting. We have a dark neighborhood, we could actually see the stars. And so we have questions about the lighting also, what's going on.
There is no lighting proposed in the project. I'm sorry, there is no lighting proposed in the project. In our ecosystem restoration project with the Corps of Engineers, lighting is not part of the project. It is not allowed. I'm going to let an engineer talk about the construction.
One thing it could be during construction, they would do vibration monitoring. So they set up a instrument close to your home, let's say, and measure the vibrations. And if they're within acceptable limits, then typically they stop doing that.
Are we made aware of what's acceptable? I mean, I'm not trying to be difficult, I just want to know, are we aware of what these limits are?
I think we need to get closer to construction, but we are happy to sit down with you and discuss this issue as we get closer to construction.
So the numbers like early on, we're looking at numerous homes, within just a few yards, and we have concerns about literally damage. I mean, we already have shipping and everything. So I should please take that into consideration.
Absolutely.
And make us aware so that we can take our own precautions if necessary.
I think this is for the future conversation as we get closer to construction. Thank you very much. And we're going to take the last two questions. I think we're getting 7:15. Okay.
Hi, I'm interested in mature native trees. And so I think a previous speaker asked the question, will there be, do you anticipate that there will be some removal of mature native trees?
Yeah, the only removal of mature native tree, it wouldn't be mature native tree. The only removal of trees would be for equipment access, if it's for a native tree.
And I think that also that the tree can be without the EPA involved. It's going to be, with respect, that it seems like not the right reason to remove a mature native tree. It sounds like maybe there could be some better reasons than that to remove a mature.
There may be instances, and being fully honest, there may be instances, hopefully, we will look for every possibility to avoid having to do so. But there may be instances where a native tree fairly mature will have to be removed. We can't promise that no native mature trees will be removed. It will be avoided at all, as much as we possibly can.
So when we get to 60 or 90%, could you please show those individuals on the plan?
We can,
Which will be removed.
yes,
And just a reminder, these are historical assets. So it takes, 50 years to grow a mature native tree. So we consider these things to be historical assets. So and it would also be helpful when you show them on the plan to show us why they have. That would help a lot. And it would also be good to find places to store equipment that don't require the removal of mature native trees.
absolutely.
Thanks.
Quick question for you on the parking lot proposed. Was there a study done in the Breckenridge Park to validate that parking needs to go in, whether it's pervious or impervious?
We've heard from a number of residents, people that have attended the meetings, that parking would be something that would be desired. Because not everybody has the immediate access that River Road does. People that live outside the area need a place to park to utilize the trail, access the river. And so we've heard numerous times through comments that parking would be desired.
So, this is my opinion. I agree. I think that there's probably a medium of not having the neighborhood filled with parking, but at the same time, not taking what sounds like a part of the mulberry, which is that it's almost active retention pond for flooding, to turn that into some sort of impervious or pervious pond. Right? There's last comment on it. There's trails right on Mission Ridge that you don't need to have parking in every single area. Like, there's not parking in the middle of the trail. To me, there's parking 10 yards away. You can walk over, you can walk across the street. It's a park walk, right? So that's just a B statement, but would love for you guys to look at that.
Yeah, we've also heard about people that a little less able that require parking to be nearby. Does it have to be, we are looking at the other side of Mulberry from Avenue A. No location has been established or designed at this stage. Thank you. All right, we're good. Alicia,
You gotta let me say it because
is it a question or is it a comment?
I'm gonna let the Army Corps of Engineers know something.
Can-
I
can-
would suggest or advise you to contact a Udall Foundation because this is a highly controversial project that has the potential to adversely impact the environment. There is a federal environment, executive order that protects the human environment, and you're gonna affect these people. So Udall Foundation will help mitigate, and these other people, I know my friends and the indigenous also will be involved in this. So I would suggest you reach out to them now and set up something so that we can work this out. Otherwise, we're gonna have this highly controversial project and the residents are going to continue to fight to protect their interests.
Thank you. With that, I want to thank everybody for coming out. We do appreciate the questions. We do appreciate the comments, written or otherwise. Thank you very much. We do have maps out in the foyer that we would like people to comment on as well. Everything that you're turning in is being shared with the entire team. If you would like our contact information, please come up and visit with us. We're happy to get that to you. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.